and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we are going to talk about the fact that we're in the fall and winter season, and that means sometimes we want ways to warm ourselves up beyond the traditional heat, and we have to be careful. So fire educator Corey Johnson is here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
To remind us, I'm sure we all know in the back of our minds to think about fire safety, but we forget.
Exactly. I think the biggest thing is just to be attentive to what we're doing, whether it's cooking on the stove or whether it's using space heaters or other means to heat our homes.
Yeah, so I have a fireplace, father-in-law has a space heater. I mean, all these things start to come up now at this time of year. So, well, let's talk first about open flame. So if a fire pit in the backyard or a fire in the fireplace, what do we need to do to make sure that doesn't get out of control?
You just want to take precautions ahead of time, use common sense, be sure that you don't have low-lying branches or any type of canopies that might not be flame retardant over top of them. Have it ample a distance away from the house, have some sort of extinguishing agent in order to put a fire out if it happens to get out of control. Be sure that it's covered. If you have any additional questions, you can always contact the fire marshal's office.
Okay, I hadn't thought about the low-lying branches, but yeah, I guess that is pretty important. And then make sure you don't go to bed, I assume, when that fire is still burning.
Exactly, especially with space heaters. I don't even recommend space heaters in bedrooms when you're sleeping at night.
Really?
Only because you're not going to be attentive, and if it's running all night long, then anything can happen, and you might not have enough time to respond to what you need to do. Just invest in some good quality comforters or quilts or something like that that doesn't produce a lot of heat. And be sure that with your space heaters, you have at least a 3-foot radius around them from anything that could potentially burn. And always keep them plugged directly into the wall whenever you're
I did not realize that. I think we replaced my father-in-law's space heater, and it said that in very, very big letters.
Right.
Or if you do use an extension cord, I think it said use a heavy-duty one and the shortest that it could be and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't.
We usually just kind of recommend avoiding the extension cords or surge protectors, plug them directly into the wall. If you're not in that room enjoying that warmth, then cut them off, unplug them. Just get in the habit of that so that it's not something that you forget about.
What about propane heaters? I've seen more and more of those outside. I'm assuming we don't bring them inside. That would be a bad move.
That would probably be a bad move. Wouldn't recommend bringing those sort of things inside, but you want to be sure that you have ample space away from anything that could potentially burn.
Yeah, it feels like they could tip over. Some of them are those very tall ones, and they're wonderful. They're warm, but...
Exactly, but you still have to be mindful of children, pets. Be sure that there's some sort of perimeter around where they can't run into it and burn themselves or hurt themselves.
And I'm jumping back and forth, but some of the new indoor space heaters do have a feature that if they're tipped, they cut off.
Yes.
That was a surprise to me.
The newer model space heaters, if you tip them over, they will cut off, or if they get too hot, they will sound off a thermostat alarm. However, some of the older models don't have those features, and if you accidentally knock them over, they will continue to burn. So that's why I just caution people from sleeping in their bedrooms at night with space heaters.
And it is one of those things, maybe you should look at how old yours is and think about upgrading if you can afford to, because there are constantly safety features being added.
Absolutely.
What about, there's obviously more cooking going on in November and December, probably than there is the entire rest of the year.
Yes.
What do you remind people about for that?
First, number one, have a working smoke alarm in your house. That's going to be your first indication that there may be some sort of fire going on in the house. Always want to be attentive whenever you're cooking on the stovetop. November is actually one of the number one days of the year for cooking-related fires, followed up by Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yeah.
When there's a lot of activity in the kitchen.
And a lot of people and a lot of dogs, at least at my house.
Yeah.
So be attentive in the kitchen. Don't leave stuff unattended. Make sure there's at least one person. Usually if there's the holidays, there's more than one person who can help and be that second set of eyes or can stir or whatever.
Yes, use your kitchen timers. Be sure that you have any type of recipe books or paper products or anything like that well away from the burners on the stove. Turn your handles away from the front of the stove and away from any other burners so that they don't get knocked off.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. There are more kids in my house at that time of year now than any other time.
Right.
One thing I was going to ask about is also, since we're thinking about cooking, A lot of people now are deep frying their turkey outdoors, propane burner, hot oil. Tell us how we need to be mindful if that's what we want.
Yes, definitely have to be very attentive with that and careful, being sure that it's well away from the house. I would say at least 10 to 15 feet, preferably on concrete on a solid surface, and being sure that beforehand, before you even put a turkey or fish or whatever in there, but especially a turkey, place the frozen turkey inside of the metal vessel, fill it up with water, remove the turkey, mark the line so that you know where the actual grease and the de-thawed turkey is going to raise the grease up to, so that it doesn't overflow and hit the igniter.
Oh, I would have never thought about that. Yeah. That, and I think the tipping over is a huge problem. Exactly. Even if it's not flame, you've got half a gallon of hot oil, boiling oil.
Right, and you also want to take precautions to have a fire extinguisher or some sort of extinguishing agent nearby so that you can safely put the fire out. Anything but water.
Especially when it's oil.
Anything but water, yes.
Yeah, and people in the heat of the moment when you're panicking don't necessarily think. Exactly. So having it right there would mean people wouldn't pull out the water.
Exactly.
What happens if they do? I'm just not asking for me, I'm sure, but out there.
Well, if someone kind of panics and mistakenly puts water on a grease fire, then what'll happen is at 212 degrees, that water is going to turn to steam instantaneously, and it's going to take all of that hot grease and everything up and out like an explosion. So that's definitely not the thing to do.
Definitely.
Not with a grease fire.
But fireplaces, pretty okay as long as keep a screen.
As long as you have a screen there to cover it. You also want to be sure that you, especially as we get into the colder season, have your chimney serviced.
Yeah.
Because over time, there could be a buildup of what's called kerosene inside of the ceiling or inside of the chimney shaft, which can actually lead to fires as well. You definitely want to have that screen.
I've actually done that once.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, flame shot out the chimney. It was really not good. It wasn't just me, but...
And you want to make sure the flue is open before you start up everything?
I've done that wrong before,
okay.
Too. All the things you're saying, Corey, I am a bad example of.
So you don't want to have a backup smoke in your house, so you want to make sure the flue is open, and you want to have some sort of screen there, protective in front of the fireplace so that embers don't float elsewhere in the house and cause a fire as well.
And I do want to say, you also want to close the flue, but safely afterward. But remember that otherwise, not a fire issue, but your heat's shooting up that chimney.
Exactly.
If you don't pay attention to whether it's open or closed.
You want to make sure that the ashes are completely and the embers are completely extinguished before you close the flue. Yeah.
What kind of hazards can happen with a Christmas tree?
Whether you're using, of course, traditional natural Christmas tree or whether you're using an artificial tree, you just want to be mindful to check all of your cordage, make sure that there's no frays or damage or cuts or anything like that could potentially cause an electrical related fire. If you have a live Christmas tree, you want to be sure that when you first purchase it from the vendor, that they cut off the resin cap on the end by at least an inch or two so that your tree will be able to saturate itself with water when you're feeding it. So,
I never thought about it being I mean, I knew you did that, but yeah, you're right. It's sealed over to protect the tree.
So you might have a live tree, and if you don't do that and you think you're watering it every day, it's not actually absorbing the water into itself if you don't cut off the resin cap. Then you also just want to be mindful to continue to water it every single day because those live trees require a lot of water in order to stay hydrated. And if they become dry, all of that pine oil is highly flammable, and if there is a spark from an electrical malfunction of some kind, then it's like having a can of gasoline in your living room.
Right. Or if somebody's smoking, or if it's too close to the fireplace. I mean, there's a lot of things that could really happen.
And then also I encourage individuals, even though the Christmas lights are pretty and everything like that, maybe put them on a timer or unplug them during the nighttime hours or when you're not at home, just to avoid any sort of fire hazards as well.
That makes sense. Outdoor Christmas lights.
Same thing. Just make sure that you're checking the cordage, being sure that everything is in fully functional and operational so that you don't have any type of potential hazards down the line. Try to use your outdoor cords for outdoor usage.
Right.
Indoor extension cords for indoor usage. They're designed for short-term usage, okay? So not for all season long, those extension cords. So you want to be mindful of that as well.
You're good. Is there anything I haven't asked about that is a common or potential problem at this time of year?
Well, I mean, we see
Furnaces.
Furnaces, always just service
an
and
area,
maintenance.
A lot
Yeah.
of old houses.
Yeah.
Like I have an ancient oil burner that's original to my house. You do have to be real careful about that.
Definitely. It's just service and maintenance of all the items that you have, whether it's your cooking related items, your heating related equipment, your furnaces, your chimneys. You just want to take the time to do a regular check of those items that you have in your home. Carbon monoxide detector would be a great investment.
Especially, I would assume, if you have oil or gas.
Especially so, yeah. Or if you're using any
Propane.
sort of alternative heating source like kerosene or propane or anything like that.
Yeah.
But primarily, be sure that you just think smart. Have working smoke alarms in your house. Have an escape plan ready where you know at least 2 ways out of the house and one safe meeting place outside of the house, and everyone in the family knows this. Be sure that you're attentive when you're cooking. Be sure that you're examining your holiday decorations beforehand, and that you're just being mindful of safety around your home throughout the year.
Burning candles.
Candles are also another big thing, and you want to be sure that you don't leave those unattended, just like you wouldn't want to leave something on the stove unattended. Blow it out. It only takes a second to blow out a candle and relight it again if you're not in the room to enjoy the candle.
Right.
And it only takes a moment for your house to catch on fire.
You're scaring me now.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, better safe than sorry, you know?
It is. And so just keeping these things in your mind, maybe even repeating them to yourself
Correct.
is a helpful thing. Or I do like timers because I can forget I have a candle burning. It's, they get kind of small sometimes. You
Right.
don't really notice them. So doing that last sweep before you go upstairs or whatever.
Exactly. Because, I mean, we can all fall victim to forgetfulness, a distraction, an unexpected knock at the door, TV program, or whatever it may be, whether it's a candle or unattended cooking. It happens, and it can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time if we just don't pay attention to what we're doing.
And then smoke alarms too. I will mention that you guys will have sent me a reminder that says I should have checked my smoke alarm and changed the batteries when I changed the clocks.
Right.
But if I forgot,
You
the
can-
beginning of heating season, the beginning of the holidays is a good second reminder.
Second
right?
reminder. And you can call us year round. And, we have a free smoke alarm installation program, completely free to any resident here in the city of Hampton. All they have to do is give us a call at 325-4945, and we can set up an appointment to come out, check your smoke alarms, make sure that they're operating properly, change the batteries out if your smoke alarm happens to be chirping, indicating that you have a low battery. Or if your alarm is older than 10 years old, we'll replace the entire unit for free. And we'll also do another free service called a home safety survey, in which we check your smoke alarms, batteries, and we can check the home for any fire, fall, or trip hazards that might be present.
Wow, that is very helpful. And I know in particular, older people probably shouldn't be getting up on ladders and changing their smoke alarm batteries by themselves. I used to do the neighbors, but it's important to have that service for people who need it, but also for people who are just maybe not sure what they need or can't do it themselves.
Exactly, because some people they might call me and they have a question about placement or where should they put it. Of course, you want to be sure that it's away from air ducts and things like that, but some people don't know that. Or just don't know the exact position.
You don't want it
in the
right
home
over your
to be.
stove.
No, because then what we come across is individuals have those frequent nuisance alarms, and they have the
shut it
tendency
off.
to unplug
The
it.
battery's hanging down.
Exactly, or to take the battery out, which is
Yeah.
what we don't want them to do. When all they need to do is just kind of move the alarm a little farther away.
Okay, lots of good things to think about.
Yes.
Anything else I've forgotten?
I think we covered a lot of our bases there.
Okay,
I think we
thank
did.
you so much.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for listening. I know Corey rattled those off so quickly, you might have to play this show twice, but do keep these tips in mind. Stay safe this winter season. Thank you for watching.